Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elisa Bustamante, and I'll be talking about my research project, which is called The Speech Act of Apology in a Venezuelan Call Center. Right here, we have the table of contents. We have the introduction, the problem, theoretical framework, the main theories and previous studies, the method, approach, participants, instruments used, procedures followed, results, and conclusion. The current research study examines the speech act of apology used by multilingual call center employees in Venezuela who regularly engage with native and non-native English-speaking customers. The urge to apologize for offensive behavior is a universal human need that has accompanied human communication from the dawn of time till the present. The ethnography of speaking is a method of analyzing language that has been created to increase awareness of assumptions that are based on culture. It is also referred to as the ethnography of communication because it includes aspects of nonverbal communication, according to Holmes in 1992. Speech actions are thought of as the fundamental building blocks of communication in a particular language and are crucially important components of linguistic competence in that language. This research presented the following questions. Number 1. Do clerks apologize in a very formal way? And number 2. What's the most common apology phrase clerks use? To explain the syntactic, semantic, and sociolinguistic characteristics of the apologies used, one of the most significant research on the Speech Act of Apology in English was conducted by Holmes in 1990. Since then, researchers have worked to broaden the field of study, include new languages, and contrast the apologetic techniques used in various languages. People's speech contains thoughts, ideas, and emotions in addition to words and simple syntactic constructions. Speech acts are the linguistic operations that words and phrases employed by interlocutors in ordinary conversation, such as greeting, complimenting, ordering, thanking, and apologizing, among others. And for the last theory, we have the writer's model in 2000. It is shown in her discussion and the comparative study of the strategic differences in apologizing between the British and the Uruguay culture. Now, it distinguishes the illocutionary force indicating device. It would be expression of regret as an example. We have I am sorry. We have the offer of apology. For example, I apologize. And the last one, the request for forgiveness. Example, pardon me. We have the theoretical framework, the theories. The first one is the speaking framework from Himes in 1974. The breakdown of speech events into their component pieces is done through ethnographic communication analysis. The acronym SPEAKIN stands for the 8 identified fundamental parts. Now, this framework can be used by researchers to pinpoint any specific speech event's socially relevant elements. We have the Speech Act theory by Austin in 1962, and it held the purpose of explaining the language as a series of actions according to the effects of the communication on the listeners and the speakers: assertive, directives, commissives, expressives, and declaratives. According to Austin, an utterance can be employed to carry out an action. He made the argument that one might say and do things simply by speaking. For instance, when someone says, "I'm sorry for the way I acted," they are not just stating it, they are also expressing regret. Now, for writer's model in 2000, it was a discussion and the comparative study of the strategic differences in apologizing between the British and the Uruguay culture. It distinguishes the illocutionary force indicating device, expression of regret, for example, I am sorry, offer of apology, for example, I apologized, and request for forgiveness, for example, pardon me. Now, talking about the previous studies, we have a cross-cultural study of the Speech Act of Apology by Turkish and Kurdish speakers of English by Sevi and Vaisi in 2021. This study examines the Speech Act of Apologies used by Turkish and Kurdish and native English speakers to determine the similarities and variations in the apology tactics they use when English is the medium of communication. Now, the techniques chosen and put to use showed that the culture and cultural resemblances, or disparities, play a significant effect in the selection of the English apologetic techniques for non-native speakers. Now, talking about Cohen and Austin in 1981, the aim of their project was to determine the possibility of assessing sociocultural competence in non-native speakers of English. The current research uses a qualitative descriptive approach that is categorized as such because the purpose of this study is to produce descriptive data about the apologized speech acts of clerks in a Venezuelan call center. Also, according to Van in 2015, participant observation, one-on-one or group interviews, and examination of cultural artifacts are the most popular techniques for gathering anthropological data. Talking about the participants, we have 2 females and 1 male with levels of C1 and C2 according to the CEFR. And the ages are among 24 to 28 years old. As for the instruments, we have the observation, transcription, note-taking, and listening approach. As for the procedures, we have daily observation, listening to live calls, listening to recordings, and transcribing. There were 45 randomized tapes in total, 15 from each employee, and they each lasted for about 1 to 1.5 minutes. The transcripts of the tapes that contained any information on the apology speech acts were compared to the others to determine if there were any similarities. We have the results showing a table for participant A, the 24-year-old female, and participant B, the 27-year-old male. Now, as it can be noticeable, the clerks are very standard on their apologies. They do not use any big words or phrases when they encounter certain situations. For what it can be shown on the table, the most common apology phrase utilized is "I'm sorry." This is because they are sympathetic to the situation that the customers are in. The clerks want the customers to understand that sometimes it may be their fault and other times it may not, but they will make every effort to help them. And talking about participant C, there was only 1 tape in which the clerk said, "I'm sorry." Now presenting the conclusions, we have that speech actions of apology are crucial, pragmatic, and social-linguistic difficulties that involve a variety of linguistic elements such as the speaker's awareness of responsibility, the offender's awareness of transgression, the speaker and the offender's faces, etc. And understanding when and how to apologize properly is essential for having a harmonious interpersonal interaction. Now these are all my references that were used within the research. And thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.